Good afternoon, everyone. This is Wired's live living room sessions. My name is Jen Ward-Clark, and I'm pleased from the Caribbean Permaculture Research Institute, I'm pleased that CPRI is partnering with Walker's Institute for Regenerative Research, Education and Design, Wired, to bring you this series powered by the Inter-American Development Bank. Last week in this space, I hosted a trio of permaculture graduates discussing the benefits of permaculture. My name is Jen. To regenerative agriculture and climate resiliency. Wired's Keisha spoke with Dr. Justin Ram on the topic of renewable energy. There's lots to look forward to in the coming weeks, including Dr. Chelston Brathwaite with Keisha Farnham this Thursday, June 11th, to discuss Barbados's We Planting initiative to plant 1 million trees. If you can't watch any of our sessions live, you can always catch the replay on our respective Facebook pages or on Wired's YouTube channel. It's as easy as one click to subscribe on YouTube, and you can keep up to date on all that we have going on. We've been hosting this space for disruptive and innovative conversations focusing on climate change, biodiversity, regenerative agriculture, and renewable energy. Today, however, we are looking at the climate through a slightly different but not unusual lens. The orange economy, our creative industry, has been a consistent contributor to education and awareness of all things climate resilience for as many years as I can remember. But we have entered into a new stage of education. We have a need to move beyond awareness. We have a need to make actual change at this point. The orange sector possesses a key element in creating a lasting social change that we often overlook. This is influence. Our guest today, Tracy Fowler, is a longtime school friend of mine, and I'm so excited to discuss a topic that I am so passionate about with her. Tracy is a mass communication specialist with extensive experience in multimedia development, branding, marketing. Her experience has been vast, and her name has become one that most of you will most notably know from her morning show, 6 a.m. and Sharp, her crop over entertainment show, Playback, a business show called The Insider, CEO Edition, a couple of popular radio shows on Starcom Network, Hava JJ and Women Who Wine, and these are just a few of Tracy's many accomplishments throughout the years. But most importantly, Tracy is currently the host of a morning show called Sunny Side Up on the Beat 104.1 FM. This show is about the sunnier side of life. Living life well and, in her own words, with intention. It's this quality of Tracy's purposeful living that makes her influence on social change extra special. So how is it that Tracy's work fuels climate resilience? How is it that she uses her influence to drive social change? I'm not going to elaborate too much more on Tracy because I know we all want to hear from her. So please join me in welcoming Tracy to the show.
Hi, Jen.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. I'm doing very well.
Good.
We're all stuck at home as usual, but happy to be able to do this in this way. Sorry we can't be sitting side by side sharing a muffin, but...
And your muffins are good. I remember. I was at your mom's.
Probably mom's, probably. So, Tracy, I think the first thing that our audience wants to know a bit about is yourself. My brief bio really scratched the surface of your professional accomplishments, and I wanted to start by asking you to tell us a bit about you. Who is Tracy Fowler?
Right. So you I guess talked more about my career. I've always loved media. It started with having a love for acting. I wanted to be an actress. It took me to film school, and then fell in love with production. From there, production led to media, and it just snowballed into what it is today. Actually, my first radio show, to tell you the truth, was right before I went to film school. I was 18 years old. And from there, I left after 2 years of being on radio. I went to film school. I had some experience in media, in advertising and marketing, in television. And I've just always been in media most of my life. Actually, all of my life. I believe that that's a big part of my calling. Another thing is I just absolutely love to cook. Cooking because it's therapeutic for me. Cooking because it makes other people happy when they enjoy your cooking. At one point, I loved baking and I wanted to make money from it. And then I realized that's not what I wanted to do.
You realized my mom's muffins were better.
Right, exactly. And I still do love to bake and everything, but for me, it's just all therapeutic. So food is a big part of my life, fitness, wellness. I love that. Right now, I'm in the process of being certified as a personal trainer. I'm on that journey right now. I'm not certified as yet, but this is all part of the things that I love. I'm trying to live a life doing everything that I love. And I said, why not give it all a shot? So I'm really trying to do that. So yeah, that's me.
That's amazing. A lot of different things going on there.
but it all ties together.
So I began by mentioning that the influence that you have and the ability of the orange economy or the orange sector to drive change. Certainly through your mass media experience, one aspect is in advertising, product placement, product endorsement. You could choose through your line of work to advertise essentially whatever you like. You could choose to endorse the products with the biggest kickbacks. You could take the highest payout. Certainly many environmental and climate-related products, companies, entities operate on very low budgets. It's not, we don't have the kind of bank account or the clout to be able to promote in the way that big brands do. So there's a choice that you've made in promoting some of these things. So my first question to you is really, what is the orange economy? If you can explain that a little bit to us. So I've mentioned the orange economy and I've mentioned the impact or the drive that you can have. Explain to the audience to start with, who encompasses this orange economy?
Okay, well, as you mentioned earlier, it's the creative industries. So many different organizations have so many different definitions about what the orange economy is. But really and truly, as you say, the creative industries, and I have notes, guys, okay? So I'm going to be checking them out every now and then. But it's going to include things like architecture, theater, visual performing arts, film, design, fashion design as well, media and TV, radio, web TV, publishing. We have things like heritage venues. That's a really good one. Video games, and we can't forget software and tech. That's also creative. You mentioned advertising. Music is a huge one. We see it. Michael Jackson's Earth Song, Lil Dicky's Earth. Gosh, there's so many. Paul McCartney had one as well. So yeah, so those, to me, those are all the different sectors that make up the orange economy. Festivals as well. All of those things that represent culture and the people and the arts, to me, represent the orange economy.
Absolutely. So with that being said, that's what the orange economy is. It encompasses a great variety of things. And as I said, you could choose to go down any angle. You could be promoting the arts as an entity. You could be promoting specific products. You could be promoting many different things, but you've chosen to go through this route. So you could use your influence to drive change in any direction. What are your personal passions that are pushing you towards wanting to drive climate change as a...
That's okay. I said, I was looking at my notes here, and I said I'm in the baby stages where it's concerned, because I'm still thinking about it a lot. And I really believe that before you actually do something, you're processing it, you're seeing how you can make it happen. Like how I met with you before to see how I can create an urban garden in my patio. Like I don't have big backyard space. So what can I do to grow my own food? But right now, what I do and what I'm really passionate about is buying local. That's so important to me. Making sure I know the farmer where I'm getting my food from. I love to know the process of the food, the growing of the food. I like to go to their farm spaces as well. That's really important to me. And besides climate resilience and climate change, I just love to meet the people. I think they're a big part of it. That's part of culture. And so I love to get to know the farmers. And I think that those kind of things, if more people got involved in buying local, eating local, we can preserve a lot of farmland for these smaller farmers. They can make their living 100% off of doing that. So I get really excited when I could make those choices. Like I made little choices, like I don't buy broccoli anymore. That was a new one, just because it's always imported. And I was just like, I'm just gonna buy local greens. I don't want to buy broccoli anymore. I want to see how it goes. Working out my meals with the local greens, and it's those little changes to me that you can make, to, as a step further within climate resilience. And so that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about. And the next step is going to be growing my own food.
We're going to get that patio garden underway.
And you know a lot about that. So I want to grow my own herbs, and as many things as possible that I use in here, I want to do that too. Absolutely. And then I'm using my own platform as well to spread the word. I always say that sunny side up, as you said, is about the sunnier side of life and about living life well and with intention. So I always try to choose guests that will help me and my audience make better choices in their lives. I always make sure that they have good takeaways from the interviews, practical steps that they can take, because I know sometimes these concepts can seem very large and people can be disconnected. They hear climate change, they hear climate resilience, and there's a disconnection. So anytime I have a guest talking about any of these kind of topics, I try to bring it right back home. What can we do? What's that small thing that I can take home and do right now? How can I compost? How can I cut up those banana skins and put it in my plants? You know what I mean? Maybe I can't have a big compost in the backyard because I don't have one, but how can I start that process, you know?
Right.
So I've had guests on like Connie Smith-Young talking about zero waste. I've had Nicola Simpson talking about the blue economy. Talking about the kind of fish that we should probably buy more so than the other. I've had Malou on talking about slow food. Just so many different people. I've had Dominique Drakeford. She's from the US and she is a designer in sustainable clothing. And she has a company called Melanin and Sustainable Style. And she shared her story where that's concerned as well. So I try to use my platform as much as possible to get these messages out.
And that's an awesome way of looking at it. So, and from what I heard you say, you're bringing things back home, meaning you're really relating it back to what you eat. What do we need? What do we need to sustain ourselves? And then therefore, that's where your passion is lying. You want to eat good food and you want to eat it right. So making that choice is definitely, it's definitely a choice though. So my next question relates to the other people in the creative industries. How do other people in the orange economy understand the value of their worth to the climate? So you've made that choice. You've chosen to go down that route, but do other people actually understand the kind of influence that they have?
It's such a personal choice. I was thinking about this. I think that people in the orange economy definitely know their worth on a whole, period. I think some of them feel that disconnect between the concept of climate resilience and like, what do I do? What role do I play? A large portion of the work, I think, for them is getting the message to them for them to understand the urgency. So I think there's still some messaging that needs to happen on a certain level. That may not be happening. I actually thought about this a lot the other night because I was thinking about just the average person. I was thinking about the audience that the orange economy would be reaching. Right. And I think about like what's happening right now, you know, in the world, the issue with racism, the protests taking place. People aren't very focused on a climate resilience message right now. If anything, they may focus on climate injustice or justice, where certain communities are concerned, maybe not having clean water, maybe living in flood-prone areas, all these different things. Is another issue within the culture, especially with what's happening right now. So to me, if you're in the orange economy and you want to have influence, you need to come from a place where you are communicating based on the story that you know. So say you come from an impoverished area where you've seen that kind of, you know, people living in harsh conditions, people, you see the injustice. I think whatever songs you deliver or art you deliver or TV show or documentary you produce and you want to communicate the message of climate resilience, you need to do so in a way that communicates in a real way to the people. It can't
tell an authentic story. Tell your own story.
It has to be an authentic story at all times, no matter what kind of artist or creative person you are. I think about the same Dominique Drakeford that came on my show talking about her brand. And actually, she left a quote with me. I want to read it here. She said, because this is what I'm talking about in terms of having different people within the orange economy sharing different messages in different ways. She said to me, Tracy, as Black people, we have a rich history with the land, but we also have a history with the land that is based around trauma. And I thought, wow, that's real. And she said, but we're not taught in traditional school how we're so connected to the land. Therefore, and how inherently sustainable we are. Like by nature, Black people are known to be inherently sustainable, but we're so disconnected from it in recent times that we don't know how to get back there. When she said that to me, though, in the interview, it turned something on inside of me. And I said, I want to reconnect to that thing that is inherent inside of me. I want to get back to that, which is why growing my own food is something that I eventually really want to take a serious step in doing. So even in that, she shared something that would be very relatable to me. She shared a story that would hit home to me. And I think we need to have different people in the orange economy telling different stories, but the same message to all these different, you know, to these different markets and different people.
Absolutely. And there's so many different angles that you can come from. I think that the average audience too will look to a certain member within the orange economy as an influencer. They'll clue into what they're saying. So those people need to be making sure that they're telling their story and that they're telling authentically, as you would have pointed out, and relating it all back to climate change. So you pointed out as well that climate change, it's a big issue. But in reality, it comes down to our food choices on a daily basis. It comes down to the choice that we make to drive a vehicle or take a bus. It comes down to all of those very average, everyday things that all of us partake in. Climate change is not something that the scientists are going to solve. It's something that every human on this earth needs to partake in their own way. And as you said, so those influencers within the orange economy can make those suggestions and changes within their own lives and telling their own story within their situation. Everybody's situation is different. So the choice to eat broccoli or greens may not be a choice that somebody else has.
Exactly.
So therefore, we all need to do it at our own scale, at our own stage. But the take home is do something.
Do something. It could be really small, but you have to trust that your little something that you're doing is making a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. So on that, with doing something, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your goals, both personal and professional, or blended, if that's what things are.
Yeah.
What are some of the types of things that you are doing that address climate change? On a large scale, those tiny things, those larger things, remembering how broad climate change really is. What are some of the things that you've worked on in the past and some of the things you have upcoming in the future?
Okay, some of the things I've worked on in recent times, well, you would have known, the Mega Power campaign. That was fantastic. I see an electric car. There's an electric car in my future. But it is something, I definitely want to own an electric car for the benefits of an electric car and also for the environment. So it was great to be aligned with something like that. And you actually mentioned it earlier. When I do influencer work, it's very important for me to be aligned with the values of the brand. Yeah. And if I don't feel it, I belly ache over this thing. And like people would call me and have a whole conversation. We have a meeting and I would feel like, how do I tell them this is a great brand, but I just don't, it's not aligning with this right now, It's really important to me. So Mega Power was definitely that kind of brand. And Slow Food as well. Being a Slow 7 ambassador for the last 3-4 years, has been great. Being a part of that and spreading the word of buying local, eating local, getting to know farmers and vendors all over Barbados. I love that. Taking on personal projects like doing my own little features on farms. I love it.
And those have been great to watch.
Yeah, I love that. And some things I have coming up. There's a show, to some degree, our podcast I'm been working on it for the last 3 years. It's called Conscious Folk. And it will include interviews with people who are working in wellness and things like climate change and climate resilience within the Caribbean, getting to know them, getting to know the passion behind it, why they're doing what they're doing, and just creating the awareness within the Caribbean, creating the awareness of these people. So those are things that I'm getting involved in.
That's exciting. That's very good. So if anybody is just joining us now, I'm here with Tracy Fowler. We're talking about the orange industry's influence on climate resiliency. Tracy will be taking questions live from the audience in a few minutes. So be sure to post your questions in the discussion on our Facebook page or on Wired's YouTube channel, where we're also streaming live. So make sure that you are subscribing when you're on YouTube so you can stay in touch with everything that we are doing. So Tracy, there's so many things. There's so many different questions we could do, so many different angles we could go on. Living intentionally is certainly a mind-opening way of even thinking or looking at things. I listened to a segment on mindful living recently where someone's spouse said, "Hey, look at how this worked out," and the other person literally said, "I know, I did that on purpose." So, on a personal level, what do you think that people can do? Can you give us a call to action? Can you give us that sort of, what do we do? What actions can we take? What can we do on purpose in our own lives to make a difference in climate change, to help to be that influencer? So not all of us are part of the orange industry either.
No, exactly.
We are still influential within our own circles, within our communities. what can we do? What can we where do we go?
Well, I mentioned one of the things earlier a couple times too. Buy local. So important. Buy local food from your local vendors. It's hard sometimes because we love our imported goods. We're so blessed in Barbados to get good imported food, but a great range of food. But we also have great seasonal food in Barbados. So I think that's something that we should do. And at some point, if your grocery bill can look 90% local, that would be fantastic. That's the goal for me. It's one of my goals that I have, a 90% local grocery bill. Growing your own food. If you're not a green thumb, someone can show you the way.
It's not rocket science.
Jen can show you the way. No, there are people who can teach you. And also, what I try to do is educate yourself. So I educate myself as much as I can. Even going to Walker's Institute, every Saturday I would have seen, or every week I would have seen a post go up on Facebook saying, come to the free open house and learn about what we're doing. My mind was absolutely blown. And I went home feeling like, what can I do? What can I work on? What can I fix? How can I join? So it's those kind of things that keep the fire burning. So try to get out and learn in spaces that you're not accustomed being in, and learn the information, learn about what's happening in your own country. Of course, the message is out there over and over. Use less single-use plastic. I have about 50 of those reusable bags. Everyone does, because we go to the market and you're like, oh no, I don't want plastic. So you buy another bag, but all of those are good steps. Throw things away. Don't litter. Barbados is too beautiful. It's really easy to throw something away.
It really is a very simple step. Yeah.
It really is. And I get really annoyed when I'm driving behind someone and I see something come out of a car. I want to honestly pull up on the side and be like, what are you doing, sir? Sorry, but I don't do that.
I don't think he actually does that.
Or you can take it a step further and recycle. And like right now, around the back of my apartment, there are like boxes piled, and then there's glass in another section. And then at the end of the month, head over to Bees and drop everything off. And it's a really easy process. Sometimes you forget to do it, but at least you're making the steps to make that change. And those are the little things to me that you can do.
Absolutely. All really little things. The one that I liked, two that I really like that I'll talk about a little bit is just the educating yourself. So in terms of the things that we can do here on this island, I mean, the getting out and the seeing and that inspiration that you mentioned, that when you go out to Walker's Reserve, there's a number of different places. So we have Wired's Walker's Reserve site in St. Andrew, which is a regeneration project. For those of you who don't know, it's a silica sand mine regeneration project using permaculture principles. CPRI Barbados is an educational entity who teaches permaculture courses, full-day courses, longer courses, 10-day courses, certification courses, things like that. There's a lot of education available to people in Barbados. Right now, we're just working through the details of how that looks, right, with post-COVID. But there is a lot of education available. You can go out to Walker's Reserve and learn things just by taking a tour. You can go out to Cocoa Hill Forest and learn things just by talking to Mahmoud and the guys that work there. They're an incredible wealth of knowledge. You can learn things by asking your granny. You can learn things by talking to the guy who pulls up weeds on the side of the road in your neighborhood because he's using them to make bush tea of some sort. All of this is education and information. It's widely available out there in person, as well as the obvious, the internet, which is a wealth of information. It's just not always regionally based. So you have to be careful what you're finding on the internet. That in conjunction with buy local, eat local. Yeah. So if you could tell us a little bit more about the slow food, slow 7 challenge that you mentioned, because that's a big one that I think the challenge itself, but just the idea that people can partake in.
Actually, before I answer that, there was one thing I forgot to tell you in the call to action. One thing I started doing was chatting to my the head of the, all of us, well, not all of us. Some of us have like a neighborhood watch. It may be on WhatsApp now. People are doing the neighborhood watch on WhatsApp. So I spoke to the head of my neighborhood watch, and I said, why not do a little farmers market in the neighborhood? Or like, he's actually started growing things in the main park. And I think sometimes even little things like that, a neighborhood getting together to grow things so they can live sustainably in their space is a good step as well. Again, It may not be able to serve the entire neighborhood, but there's small things there, and it's a small step, another call to action. Slow food. So you want to know about the challenge. I love that challenge because I learn so much from everyone who participates.
There's a great number of people. So explain what the challenge is, just so, for the audience.
Right. So, gosh, I think Malou is in the chat, but she could probably tell me. There are 3 levels of slow. I think you can eat or buy super slow, and then there's like a medium.
Slow, slower, slowest. Yeah.
Right. Something like that, but they have like different names, so I can't remember what it was. But, I guess the slowest is completely local and growing your own thing and raising your own animals. That whole, that's a different life. I don't do that. I
not everybody can.
I'm
just
sure
to do the best that you can in your situation.
What's that?
It's just to do the best that you can in your situation.
Exactly.
It's not
and it's the effort to get out. It's the effort to get out to the farmers markets and try something new with, like, I always go back to Samara, who made an apple pie with Christophine. I think that was my favorite thing, my favorite recipe that I've ever seen in the Slow 7 Challenge, because it has very similar texture, and it was really good as well. Yeah. And it's great that Christophine can be used in that way to make a dessert. And so during the Slow 7 Challenge, you have 7 days of cooking all your meals completely local. That's the challenge. But you don't have to feel pressured by the fact that every single thing isn't local, because people start to freak out, like, but what about my oil? And what about my butter? That's
why there's the different levels. Yeah.
Don't panic. Just try your best to make your main dish something local, or tell us what you used that was local. Maybe you made a juice from the passion fruit you picked along the way. Maybe, you baked a cake with 80% local ingredients, but tell us that. At least it's the effort to do it, to create local meals. So that's really what it's all about. And at the end of it, you're sharing all of your meals online, your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, your drinks, and you get prizes based on category. It could be best drink, it could be best cocktail, best breakfast. It could be a best picture with a farmer or with
encouraging people to go out to the farms as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And let us know who the people are.
Yeah.
You're always
Where did you get your produce from? What did you cook? Share your recipe.
I need to get fish from that person, know? So it's really great what it does for the community. And you meet a lot of people through it. People messaging you, where'd you get your avocados? I got it from Sheila. I got it from Roger. And so that kind of conversation, to me, is the bigger part of the picture.
Absolutely.
Not the actual challenge, but what you get from it. That's what you get from it.
Absolutely. So the conversation is really around everybody eats. Everybody has to eat. We might as well eat well. We're making delicious dishes and sharing them with our community. And we're just promoting, where do we get them from? How local is it? How local can we be? What swaps can we make? Different things like that. And going along that line, your recent Pantry Chronicles was really quite something to watch. I really, really enjoyed that. That was an amazing thing, and it's still going to a certain extent. But do you want to elaborate a little bit on what that was? Why did you bother?
Just because we were going into lockdown, and I know we weren't going to be eating out, and we also we didn't know, and we still, to some degree, we don't know what the future holds, and you want to be careful, you want to be cautious, you want to save your money. So get accustomed to using what's in your pantry, because at some point, what happens during the week or during the month, you go, I feel like making so-and-so. Oh, but I don't have any mozzarella. I'm just going to go get it. But you have other things. So then it forces you to then be creative with what you actually have in your pantry or in your fridge or in your cupboard, instead of going out to add on to what is there. Use it before it goes bad, because how many of us throw away greens that get all brown and watery, cucumbers that get all soft, or tomatoes your fingers can go through. Or things that get little bugs in it, because you're like, oh, I bought this, but I never used this cassava flour. Use the cassava flour. This is the time to do it. Use the chana peas. Try something else. Research the recipes, and people really took the challenge on, and
it was great.
With it. Yeah.
And making those simple swaps and creating amazing things out of what you would have thought was nothing. You open the doors and you're like, oh, there's nothing to eat.
Yeah. And no one was so fussy about plating and making it look pretty. It was like, this tastes good.
Yeah.
And it tastes great.
That's the part I really liked.
Yeah.
So those two things, both of those challenges really, one that you started out and it took off like wildfire. That was great. But really what it comes down to and how we relate it to climate change is that it's about what you eat. We need to eat, and it's about voting with your fork. So that's a slow food saying. Voting with your fork, which essentially means that when you're asking for local produce, and even though the Pantry Chronicles was not about 100% local, it was more about let's use what we have and what's available to us. Let's not waste. So food waste is a huge issue in terms of climate change as well. There's, I can't recall off the top of my head, but there's a huge statistic of the amount of food grown worldwide, which is in fact waste. And it's either wasted in the farmers' fields, it's wasted on the way shipping somewhere, and the vast majority of it is wasted in people's fridges, or left over on plates. So it's food waste in terms of that. It comes down to cooking oversized meals and making sure that you're following Tracy's Pantry Chronicles and using what you have before it goes bad. That's really one of the bigger issues as well. And it all comes back to climate change. And what is it? It's what we eat every day. Let's make delicious things, and we're fighting climate change at the same time.
I love that. This is all about food.
It's all about food. In reality, we're just foodies who happen to be doing good things for the climate.
That's the goal.
So guys, if you're just joining us, I'm here with Tracy Fowler, and we're talking about the orange industry's influence on climate resiliency. Tracy is going to be taking questions live from the audience in just a couple of minutes. So be sure that if you have questions for her, let's post them in the discussion below the Facebook feeds on either CPRI or Wired's Facebook page, or on Wired's YouTube channel where we're streaming live. So I think we have a few questions ready from our audience. If we're ready to go to them, our first question is from Melissa Young. Aside from yourself, are there other fellow members of the orange economy who are utilizing their platform in a similar fashion? It's a great question. Let's talk about who the other players are.
I think if Melissa's talking about individuals, I definitely think so. Like, I think right off the top of my head in Barbados, I think about Stephanie Takei Taylor with Beijing Cherry swimsuits, and her now doing swimsuits that are 70% made from recyclable materials. That's definitely one. Gosh, there's so many. Why are they not coming to mind right away? Where is my list? Where's my list?
So CPRI has actually done a perma-blitz at the home of Kirk Brown, and he speaks widely on homegrown things. He's all about it.
And I was there helping make that garden happen.
You had that shovel in your hand, and you were doing an awesome job. A perma-blitz, for those of you who don't know, that CPRI runs, is a one-day gardening event where we essentially take a space and turn it into an edible garden or a food forest of some form, depending on the space. In this case, we did one at Kirk Brown's home, which he was thrilled to have, and Tracy was one of our lovely helpers, sweating it out that day. And Kirk has done some great posts too. So what's great to see is that we can do we can do these things even for homeowners, and then share that publicly, share it on social media, and just show other people what we can do at home, what we were able to transform in one day, and to be able to grow those things at home, like what you want to do.
It's true.
Malou Morgan is also definitely a big advocate of
Malou
in particular, and CPRI, Walker's Reserve, a lot of different social and climate change related issues.
Definitely a social activist.
Yeah, and we've had a few people on our show here too whose names are escaping me at this very second, but we have this show which focuses on climate change, resiliency, building biodiversity. We've had a number of people from the orange sector come on our show, which is really great to see. So yeah, do we have another question ready for Tracy from the audience? This one is from Edgewater. So, the way you use your influence is inspiring, but let's be real. Do you also walk the walk? What are your everyday challenges to living a climate resilient lifestyle?
I think I mentioned some earlier in terms of the everyday things that I do. Like I said, I'm in the baby steps phase, and I know exactly where I want to go. So I deliberately place myself around people and or put myself in spaces where I can learn and grow in the areas where I need to grow in. But like, I keep mentioning the buying local thing. I keep mentioning, wanting to grow my own thing. So these are the things.
Yeah. So some of the challenges, I guess, would be the wanting to. How do I get started? That sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm still driving a car, using gas.
Yeah.
Like most of us. And that's a tough one, but that's the reality.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty good. So do we have any more questions from our audience? Christina Pooler, oh, she loves the Pantry Chronicles. What was the inspiration, and will you keep it going?
Good question. Will I keep it going? I mean, I feel like it is, but I mentioned the inspiration earlier, so I hope she heard it. But will I keep it going? I think it's just happening organically, to be honest. If the need arises, I may do something like Bold Foods paired with me, and we did it together for 1 week, and they gave prizes to people for the most vegan or the most colorful, which was great, encouraging people to eat the rainbow and that kind of thing. So I love things like that. So I'd be happy to even partner with someone to do another version of Pantry Chronicles. Someone reached out to do Pantry Chronicles Kids, where they cooking in the kitchen and see what they're cooking, and then the kids win prizes for their food. So I'd be happy to continue to do it for sure. Let's make it a TV show.
Make it a TV show. I'm glad you mentioned the kids too. So this is a question that I'll give to you. You and I went to school together. Yeah. We learned about things, lots of things. They didn't necessarily inspire me. Maybe we had different experiences, but we were in a very small class.
Where we are going with this.
They didn't necessarily inspire me towards climate change. I mean, we learned about recycling. We learned about the ocean. We learned about the climate. We learned about lots of things. We definitely partook in poster competition after poster competition. We did beach cleanups here and there with the school. How do you think we could inspire the educational system and teachers as a whole towards teaching kids, or how do we get them involved a little bit more in that sort of thing?
I mean, I'm thinking you kept history, didn't you? Because because I do remember Mrs. Griffith teaching us a bit about climate change and what was happening. I do remember things like going up to River Bay and seeing longshore drift taking place and the erosion happening. But she never said, and here's how you can play your part too.
Yeah, it's more like, this is a thing.
Yeah, so it's almost like the teachers need to take an extra step beyond the teaching you the facts to having the kids own what they're being taught. I think there's a next step that just needs to take place. But it's training the teachers to understand, because they probably have to be living it as well, to be honest.
Absolutely.
And even with literature, again, if we go back to Orange Economy, it's great, the books that we read, Man for All Seasons, and Julius Caesar, and Annie John, right? These are great books. Yeah. What if we included something that included the story of, climate change and the earth changing, and, maybe there's a hero in there that, like Captain Planet. I'm sorry, I went there because that cartoon was really about Earth, right? But I'm just saying, what if there was more literature even around that, where there was storytelling around that? And that's where, again, the Orange Economy can come in and educate from at a younger level.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. I haven't heard of it coming from that angle yet, with the idea of literature and telling the stories. So maybe we need to inspire more writers to be writing towards that angle. Yeah. In such a way that can be used to teach all the concepts that need to be taught in literature, but telling those stories. Maybe there are books out there, so maybe our audience can give us some examples if we know of some that are already available that are scholarly yet tell that story.
But there are also organizations like, honestly, I didn't spend that long in Guides. Were you in Guides?
Yeah, for a while.
Well, those are one of those organizations that can really hammer home those principles because of the things that they teach the girls. So even in there, maybe there's another set of training that needs to be done with the leaders of the Brownies and the Guides to get the girls involved and things like that, and Scouts too.
Yeah, and shout out to the people around the island who are providing those sort of opportunities to children already. So I know that schools can do tours, Girl Guide groups, Boy Scout groups, that sort of thing, with all of our the larger major players around the island. So even some of the smaller people, like aquaponics farms that you can go and take a tour of, Peg Farm, Walker's Reserve, Cocoa Hill, Andromeda,
Cocoa Hill.
I'm not sure that Graham Hall does it anymore currently, but so these are all of the bigger learning experiences. So kudos to all the teachers who go the extra mile and take their schools on field trips to those sorts of places as opposed to Chaffette Playground.
Right.
Not that Chaffette Playground isn't super fun. So we have a couple of more questions from our audience we want to make sure that we get to. Barbados Scuba would like to know, in terms of vendors, local versus imported food is easy to ask, but local does not mean cheaper necessarily. Mm-hmm. Can you think of a couple of items that you specifically purchase that are local and a great value at the same time?
Okay.
Also, bring out the shopping bills.
Yeah, I know. Where's that bill? Yeah, no, he's right. He's actually really right. So I know with the greens, and you have to like okras. Yeah. I know. I could see some faces going, Tracy, no, stop it. Mm-hmm. Local zucchini. Like I think about Yosha. If any of you go to Holders Farmers Market, when we could go outside and be at a farmers market, I think they should be up again soon. Yeah. But that's an example to me of getting some local greens at decent prices. And just everything. She has all the produce you could think about, and I find the prices to be very reasonable. Mm-hmm. Recently, I bought a local yogurt, a company that I didn't realize was yogurt, local, Valen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I just kind of looked at the ingredients to see what was in it, and then I saw made in Barbados and the address, and I thought, woo! And it was a better price than another yogurt I used to buy called Rachel's, and I thought, I'm just gonna buy this one, and it tastes really good. So it's a lot of trial and error, to be honest. You have to buy something and try, is it good? Check the price out, weigh the differences. But no, it's true. Some things are just a bit pricey for reasons like, manufacturing costs and all that. And those are other issues.
Absolutely. We might see a change in the trend just in terms of shipping. So shipping has become, halted for a little while. We may see a change in the trend in terms of the locally produced things being a little bit more on par to some of our imported goods. And I'm hoping that we're going to see a trend in an increase. So this is one of the other things. When you're voting with your fork, you're telling your farmers, I want to buy this. Mm-hmm. The more people who say, I want to buy this, the more the farmers are likely to grow it. So in terms of broccoli, it's not that we absolutely cannot grow broccoli here. We can situate the farming method needs to be correct, but we can grow it. So the more people who say, I want to buy locally grown broccoli, Tracy, put your fork.
I'm going to do it.
The more likely it's going to be that the farmers are going to go that extra mile to make sure that they have that available.
That would be amazing.
In the long run, the price of that would then come down to be on par with what we can buy, what we can bring in.
Yeah. So again, we have to make noise. I'm the annoying person in the supermarket at the back door going, hi, is this black belly lamb or the one from New Zealand? Oh.
Yeah, but it comes down to asking those questions. Ask your farmers, how did they grow their produce? Ask your producers, what did they feed the meat? Ask the people in the supermarket, is this really local? And most supermarkets are now labeling everything. So even, Massey, PriceSmart, everywhere, you go in there and it says local or it says imported. And that's important. So pay attention to the labels, pay attention to what's in them.
Yeah.
For your health and for climate. So we do have another question. Oh, great. This one is from Malou. So what was the easiest local swaps for you to make after trying the Slow 7 challenge? And that's a great question.
Wow. I wish I was prepared for this one. What do I remember?
Well, while you're thinking, I'll tell you my easiest local swap that I tell everybody when they ask. English potatoes for sweet potatoes. And it tastes so much better every time. Every time. Almost any dish that you could possibly make, swap the sweet potatoes in. Just
cassava too. Cassava chips.
Cassava chips are great.
Do that one. Malou taught me one, the peppercorns. I haven't tried that though. So
Which
that's one? Swapping regular black peppercorns using papaya seeds and drying them out. They make peppercorns, but that's one of Malou's and Julie's swaps. I haven't tried it, but I thought it was a great one.
But you have to go the extra mile. But I mean, that concept talks about a lot of things. So your papaya, you normally scoop out those seeds, you chuck them away. They're garbage. You
Yeah.
could dry them. You could plant some.
You can plant some.
So you could save some of those seeds and plant some and grow your own papayas.
Yeah.
You could dry some out and create your own pepper alternatives. So there's lots of different things.
A lot of options.
A lot of different
And
ways
again,
of combating climate change.
that's that wonderful thing about the Slow 7 Challenge. Those are the things that you learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other easy local swaps that you can think of off the top of your head?
I see Malou saying, sorry, I didn't want to put you on the spot. Already on the spot. Yes, cassava pancakes. See, I definitely do those all the time, but they're not coming to the top of my head. But yes, I do use, because I usually, my sister-in-law, she would send in for me like this great protein pancake mix.
Mm-hmm.
But we have wonderful local cassava pancake mix that we can use more often, and I do use that. I do have that in my cupboard as well. So that is a good one to use. Any other swaps off the top of my head? As they come to me, I think I will just jump out and let you know.
So in terms of some calls to action and giving some people some things to do going forward, we're on the food trend. So let's give the audience a bit of information about where they can go. What do I do? So I'm new to the concept. I'm accustomed to buying everything at the supermarket. Where do I go from here? I want to start making some local swaps. I want to go to a farm. What are our options? So we have the farmers market. We have Brighton's farmers market. Some places are just starting to open back up, so don't panic. They are available.
There's if you want to get local meats, there's Clifton.
Absolutely, Clifton Meats.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Peg, really good chickens. I love their chicken.
So Oink and Moo Meats at Peg Farms, they do a great job. Wonderful chickens, wonderful Oink and Moo.
Boulevard Butchers, they do a good bone broth. You can make your own bone broth, but if you're feeling a little lazy, they actually make it from scratch.
For you.
It, and you can buy it from them. There are people who make local kombuchas. I mean, there's a directory, isn't there?
Pardon?
There's a directory where you can actually.
Absolutely. The Slow Food Barbados has the name of it is escaping me, but it's available on the website for download. It is a locally sourced food buyer's guide. There we go.
Yeah, buyer's guide. That's right. So you can find the cheeses and everything.
Absolutely.
Hall's really good.
Fruits and vegetables, meats, cheeses, and secondary secondary produce as well.
Yeah.
So there's some brands around. So we have like Carmetta's, who produce the flours, cassava flours, the same pancake mix that you were talking about.
The bake mix.
We're down near to the fish market in town. So that's kind of a one-stop shop. They do meats out the back or in the store. You can get your flours and various different products in there. And then you can stop by the fish market next door and get your fish.
Yeah.
It's a really great one-stop shop. In addition to some of the farmers markets that pop up here and there, there's one at Art Splash. So they're around the place. Not to mention your good old fruit vendor on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Those are the real heart and soul of it.
Handy. Yeah. Use your community.
Absolutely. And we need to be supporting those people. These are the people that grow fruits and vegetables right in our own neighborhoods. And I think that this whole COVID nonsense has really brought that home to us. So those were the people we were able to get food from in that very first week when everything shut down.
And if we've started to tweak our lifestyle to do that during the COVID-19 time, I feel like let's not go back to the normal we were doing before. Let's actually try to increase that.
Absolutely. So
I plan those times. You can tell them that next week I might need some time. I know you didn't have it this week, and they'll make the effort to get it for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of times farmers will swap with each other. So if they know that they have somebody who's coming next week and they want time, but they don't grow time, there's another small farmer who they can swap with. And on that train of thought as well, swapping within your community. So like what you mentioned, where your neighborhood watch is creating is it a centralized garden, or are they
a little greenhouse? It's in the park actually.
Absolutely. So that's great. And being able to swap within your community. So maybe you have a WhatsApp group going and you can just say, guys, I need garlic and I don't have any garlic, but I have way too much ginger.
Yeah.
And then you can just swap within your community. That sort of concept of no cash and being able to swap. So you might grow chives really well because chives are decently easy to grow.
Yeah.
So let's say Tracy can get the chives growing. Talk to your friends, talk to your local farmer. Maybe you need to give your farmer some chives in exchange for some sweet potatoes, and then they can sell the chives, that sort of thing. All of these are somewhat baby steps, but
yeah. Yeah. And you have to honor your baby steps. I see Patrick saying if the bike truck could replace its music with an important message, what should that message be? Climate resilience is here.
I think we have one more question from the audience.
Okay. So
let's see what they have to say. Okay, so this one is from Farn UK01. Welcome. This is one of our YouTube users, so thanks for tuning in on YouTube, guys. As an influencer, the interaction isn't a one-sided translation like a newsfeed, absolutely, but constant communication and trust. People look to you for advice. How do you manage that responsibility? That is an excellent question. It's a lot. It's some weight on your shoulders.
That's why I have you guys. But there are times I do get DMs. People in my direct messages ask me very intense questions about some of the things that I support, and I may not even be there yet. And I would say, you know what? I'll get back to you on that, and I would come to a you or to a Malou. Or anyone who I know in the business, and ask the question, and then they would even explain it to me, and I would find it to be a learning experience. That's why I say that even on Sunny Side Up, on my show, I bring on guests to educate me and my listeners. It's not just about me educating them, but I am learning with my listeners as I go along, and I am learning because I want to walk this as I go along. So I'm hoping to carry people with me. And so some people may be ahead of me, some people may be just where I'm at, some people may be behind me, but we're all learning together. So I definitely manage it by reaching out and getting the answers and come back, and I make sure I always respond.
And that's all we can do. None of us are the experts. Even the experts, the so-called experts, are not necessarily the experts. We're all learning as we go. Yeah. And it's just about keeping up that the education component. Keep educating yourself, learning more as you go.
Exactly.
So one more, how do you assess the brands that you support? So I think you touched a little bit on that earlier, but being able to.
I think I've made some mistakes before. When I say mistakes,
fair enough.
Make a partnership and then kind of realize halfway. I don't know if this is the perfect partnership for me, but I'm glad I had this experience. And from there, I learned better how to choose, and I know the better questions to ask when someone asks me to do something for them or with their brand. What they represent, what are the company values. I always ask that question. So what are the brand values for your company? And that helps me understand where they're at, where they want to go, and do I want to be in line with that? Right. So that's the best way for me to assess currently.
That's great. And I had a big conversation around that with some other colleagues not too long ago, just in terms of a brand may carry a product which seems great. It might be organic, whatever it is, organic zucchinis. But the way that they produce those organic zucchinis is not necessarily in line with, the best practices. It might not be resilient. It might not be fighting climate change at all. It might be working in the exact opposite way. So it's just a matter of doing a bit of homework sometimes before you're fully aligning yourself, and remembering too that when you pay a company for a product and you haven't really done your research and you're not sure how resilient, how much they fight climate change, how much they pay attention to any of that, you are voting with your fork. I keep saying this phrase.
I like it.
You're voting with your fork in the opposite direction. So this is our question from Patrick. If you could pick 2 other people to work with to create force of change from the orange sector, who would they be? That's exciting.
Oh, wow.
So let's create the dream team for climate resiliency.
Wow. Other people. I want to say Malou.
Yeah.
I like Malu's fire a lot, and she would really get behind something. I also had a dream about Malu, and she was in like a mode. She was like protesting about something, and I was like, "That's my girl." You know, she's that person that you want on your team for sure.
Absolutely.
Who else? That's a hard one. That's a really hard one, Patrick.
You don't have to stick by your choices. I think Patrick put you on the spot.
He did.
I'm sure that there's lots of players out there.
Yeah.
And hopefully, through this interview and with the just the things that we're seeing coming forward in the last 5-6 weeks and in the next 5 to 6 weeks, we can see some more key players in the orange industry moving more towards that. Just even thinking about taking small steps, thinking about where they're aligning themselves, thinking about the type of message that they're sending out.
Yeah.
I think that is really that's my call to action to the orange sector. Let's see more of that in terms of what you're promoting.
Yeah, agreed.
So Tracy, we have a few more minutes.
Okay.
Is there one last thing that you want to leave us with, or is there one question that you maybe have, or?
I think when it comes to climate resilience, for me, what I do is dream about the earth that I want. I dream about the lifestyle that I want to live with that. And I think about, and that helps me to think about what I want to do. Other people may have another way of doing it. I am a very visual person. I'm a left-hand, right-brainer. And so I dream things and visualize things in order to get me to do things. And I read stories and I listen to stories, and those things empower me. Podcasts, seeing things like I recently learned about the Shambhala Festival that is 80% green, I think it is, or 90% green. I think about, what if crop over was 90% green? Like, what would that be like? I think about those things, and I think about how beautiful Barbados is and how much more beautiful would it be if we lived a certain way. So those things empower me to make the small changes that I want to make. And I do believe that everything so far that I've thought about over and over and place myself in a position in the space to be influenced by, I see it manifesting, and I want to continue to live that way. And if that inspires you to do the same, I think that would be amazing. Do it for you, and do it for the earth.
Absolutely. And a lot of the things that we do for ourselves, like eating, really, as long as you're paying attention to what you're doing, it resonates in such a way and spreads a message to create climate resiliency. So, Tracy, I want to really thank you for being on here today. I want to really thank you for putting yourself out there like that and spreading that message. The way that you're choosing to make these choices, live intentionally, as you said. I'm very inspired by your show, the Sunny Side Up. It's a really great thing. I like the direction that you are going with all of the work that you do, and I really look forward to seeing you in more of these spaces. So to seeing you continue on this line, doing the work that you're doing, and inspiring the Bajan public and the international public as you go. Super excited about a patio garden for your home.
Yes.
To see that evolve. That should be very, very good. And perhaps the public would be interested to learn as they go along with you. So learning curve.
I will document every single moment.
Document every moment. The life, the death, the growth.
Oh, look, these bugs ate it. What can I do?
Exactly. I mean, there are trials and there are tribulations, but it is definitely worth it in the long run. And gardening is very therapeutic. So I know one of the, in terms of like mindful living and living intentionally and just peace within yourself, gardening is a very therapeutic thing. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now. Being outside, it could really help a lot of those things. So just get outside, be with your community, that sort of thing. So thanks so much for coming on the show, Tracy. It was really, really great to see you. See you again soon, hopefully.
Yes, no problem. Thank you, Jen. Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keisha. Thank you to the entire team. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I really appreciated being here.
Perfect. Guys, you can join us on Thursday, June the 11th of June at 1 p.m. to watch Keisha as she talks with Dr. Chelston Brathwaite. He's the man behind Barbados' We Planting initiative with a goal to plant 1 million trees. Please see us next week to join in on our 1 p.m. sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays. See you next week.